This is A is for Adversity, a podcast about curating your life stories to connect more deeply with others. Some stories may have Christian undertones, and all stories will involve a realization or transformation of some sort. I'm your host, Jen Banks. This is episode R, RX for Rejuvenation, or Prescription for Rejuvenation. The sponsor for the month of November is Temple Flakes. You can find out more about them by visiting their website, templeflakes.com, or on social media. These would make a perfect Christmas gift, or you could buy them for yourself and decorate your tree beautifully with LDS temples. They are $5 each, and they are made using a 3D printer. They are so gorgeous and symmetrical. Each of them have a unique design based on which temple it's made after. I ordered 5 of them for myself last year and can't wait to order more. In today's episode, I am excited to share my interview with Sierra. She and I grew up next door to each other and have been really good friends for a long time. She is a stay-at-home mom, and so she shares some of her insights in that journey. How long have you been a stay-at-home mom? Since your oldest was born?
Yes, I did do school for a couple years, but just part-time. So like 6 or 7 credits, a couple semesters a year, but haven't been working outside the home.
Got it. And how old is your oldest?
6.5.
That's exciting. So she's in first grade?
Yes.
Ooh, big stuff.
Yes. So weird.
Yes. And have you always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom?
I did. I had a lot of different, ambitions as a kid. I always wanted to be like a dolphin and whale trainer with SeaWorld and stuff. But I definitely, I just had the desire to be a stay-at-home mom. I think just watching my mom growing up, I just thought it was I loved that she was able to be there, for my, classroom activities or sports stuff, or, I just loved having her presence. And so I always wanted to provide that for my kids as well.
Yes. I feel like, so some people are fulfilled outside the home, some people are fulfilled inside the home, and then some people could go either way. How do you feel like you fit into those categories?
Oh, as a mom now, I definitely feel my fulfillment comes from outside the home, primarily because I'm good at it, if that makes sense. So it's been really difficult because motherhood is such a, long-term game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's little progress, I guess you could say, in the day-to-day. And so that has just been really hard on me because, throughout my life of working and stuff, it was like I could do something and it would impact the next day or immediately, provide relief or reward or whatever, but that doesn't happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
Even the regular, just the mundane, people joke about it all the time, but laundry and dishes and dusting and vacuuming, before being a mom, I could do that and it would stay done. And, I could have a routine, but now it's what is it? Murphy's Law. That's as soon as I mop the floor, somebody spills juice.
Mm-hmm.
It just never stays, I just feel like any of my efforts are immediately negated because it does.
So true. Or for me, it's like you start a project and never get to finish it because there's kids. So nothing ever gets done all the way.
I get so that is, it's such pressure on me because again, before it was okay, I'm going to work on this. I need an hour and I can get it done. Right. And then now it's okay, I'm going to work on this, even putting the kids on a show or something or giving them screen time, but then it's still, they want a snack. Oh, we're potty training. So somebody needs to go to the bathroom. Oh, something comes up and all of a sudden it's 2 hours later and I'm not even halfway done. And it's just what happened? So,
yes. Yeah. So true. So you say you find fulfillment outside the home. What does that look like? Or what are some of your interests? Or how does that hole get filled in your life?
Ideally, I would love to be working with horses.
Mm.
That was for a time I was able to, and it's something, one reason I love it so much is because I feel like I can do it with my kids.
Mm.
And so it's not something that adds the strain of, trying to find a babysitter or trying to schedule time when my husband is home, or, it allowed me a lot more freedom. And so there's been small times when I've been able to do that, but even just, having them in a stroller with some snacks while I worked with like therapeutic riding places and stuff. And so just leading a horse around or being there as a spotter. And then there was another time just a couple of years ago where I was able to go and like work on training the horses and riding them. And the girls did so good. Millie was small enough that she could stay in the stroller, and the other two would just color and feed her snacks and play in the dirt.
Yes.
Love that. But it's been, a couple of years since I was last able to do that. And we, moved right as like everything was shutting down. So I think we were in our home for like 2 weeks, new state, new everything, and then everything shut down. And so it's been a really slow progress to get back to like involved in the community and, finding things. So yeah, I haven't found a place yet to go work with horses. Ideally, that would be it. But other things, just, allowing myself the permission, I guess, to have my time. So even just like going to a pedicure or going and getting a massage, like, letting myself know that it's deserved, I guess. I don't know the right way to exactly explain it, but
Right.
Just finding those things that, can help me, just give me that time to myself. A lot of it is just not being needed constantly. And so just finding some time to go get myself a fun drink from Sonic.
Yes.
Take myself on a date kind of a thing, and
Cute.
kind of recenter. And, so that, but again, it's just difficult sometimes, I get very caught up in just the day to day. And then all of a sudden it's 2 weeks and I haven't been out to do anything. And I'm really feeling that stress of just not being with myself. But then it's the planning of when I can go do that and finding somebody, so there's just a lot that plays in.
Yes. So
it's not
that, yes. Oh, it's crazy. That leads right into your realization that you had. So for my listeners, I saw on Facebook that Sierra had shared something, and it just stuck out right away to me as something that I wanted to hear her share on the podcast. So can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I had been going to therapy for a few years. It was something, I don't know, again, as a single adult or whatever, it was a lot easier for me to find, fulfillment and things anywhere pretty much. And then it was really just that like stress, but I don't know exactly the right word, just, having to be on someone else's schedule. When you have a baby, it's just so much you don't get to decide.
Yes.
When they need a diaper change. And that was a really big adjustment. And it wasn't until, I want to say it was around the time my second was born, I might have even been pregnant with my third, I was taking an abnormal psychology class. And the teacher, I love psychology, but the teacher was just insistent on everyone needs a therapist. Not that you need to go to therapy consistently, but that when you're in a good spot in your life is when you should seek a therapist, because there is kind of some trial and error sometimes of, who's a good fit, and, if they have you on a program or the homework they give you, what works for you and stuff like that. And that just really stuck out to me because she kept mentioning, like she had somebody, and then anytime she would always say, anytime she bumped her head, she would go and talk to them.
Yes.
And it just really stuck out to me that like, yeah, just in those moments of, I don't know what to do, having someone to, other than my husband, my poor
Right.
husband,
Yes.
to completely unload on, it made a huge difference right away. Just being able to hear from a professional. There's so much, with family and friends, you can talk and they're like, oh, you're doing such a good job. Oh, no, you're a wonderful mom. And it's like, yeah, you're biased,
Uh-huh.
but to hear it from a professional that's like, this is really hard and you're doing a good job, was just like, oh, so much weight lifted. And to hear them, give those permissions of, no, you need to take some time for yourself. I understand and appreciate the whole, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I know that's used a lot. And to me, I was like, it's not empty. It's full of stress and resentment. And kind of, I love your story of, I think it was one of your first podcasts, but the seminary teacher that put an apple in a bucket and then took it out and said, you get what you put into it. And so I was filling my cup, but I was filling it with this, stress and pressure
Toxic.
and angst. Yes, exactly. And that was what was pouring out. Right. So it wasn't, you need to fill your cup with positive and fulfilling things to be able to give that back to your family. So I just, that permission from a professional, just saying like, yes, take the time for yourself. Yes. Do all this really helped. I think just that guilt, that mom guilt that, is so, so common of, I have to be there for my kids all the time, but that I would rather my kids, have me as a happy mom 80% of the time than as a stressed mom, but I'm there 100% of the time.
Right. So true. That's good.
Yes. I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety, and I started going to a psychiatrist. My primary care provider was great, but I kind of felt like it was more just, this is generally what we prescribe. This is generally what, and so I really wanted to like see a focused professional. So that was when we moved to Arizona. And the first psychiatrist that I went to actually recommended me to another local gal who like specializes in postpartum issues and stuff like that. And so that has just been incredible. And so she really helped me to get on the right balance of medication and, everything. And then again, COVID.
Yes.
Like, really, but again, it was so, so amazing that I already had that established relationship and, the background of, this is how I typically feel on the medication. And this is, my typical symptoms. And then all of a sudden, okay, now I'm feeling worse, but it's the stress of being locked at home all the time. And we're in Arizona. So even though it happened over the summer, you can't leave your house in the summer. And so kind of that reverse seasonal affective disorder of, everybody else was in lockdown, but they could be out at the park or, whatever still, or just out for a walk. We could not. It was so, so hard for the kids. It was our first summer here. And they're like, it's sunny outside, Mom. Let's go play. And I'm like, it's dangerous. You will fry in 10 minutes. And so even just like quick bursts of, we're big gardeners, so we have a whole bunch of stuff going on. So we'd still have to like go out and water or, whatever. But it was just, we could really only be out for like 5 minutes at a time. It was just so hot. Even like soaking ourselves in water or trying to set up the sprinkler. Like it's just so exhausting. That heat just really gets to you. So there was just a lot going on of that added pressure and everything. And so again, just working with my psychiatrist on, I was seeing a psychiatrist for my medications and stuff, but then also going to a counselor for talk therapy, which was super helpful again to just get out what I felt like I needed to say without bringing my husband down.
Yes, right.
One of us to at least have, a safe space to not feel so all that pressure. Yeah. So it was in talking with her and, and I was just like, I kind of feeling plateaued and, not bad, which was good, but also not having like any kind of peak moments or anything, just very,
Yeah. Yes.
And she brought up the point of like, well, do you think we should, and talking with a psychiatrist is awesome because they know like, okay, well, if we increase this dose, this is most likely what's going to happen. But these are some of the side effects. If we, add this medication, this is what could happen. These are the side effects, And so she was discussing and like, well, do you think we need to change? And it just, people use the expression hit me like a ton of bricks. Literally, like, I don't think I've ever had that feeling before, that I need to treat my self-care like a prescription. And I just had never been taking it as seriously before. And it was just like, yeah, okay, when I have the time, which you never have the time. And like, okay, well, when the kids go down, or we tried to implement quiet time every day where the kids, they have their quiet time activities, whether it's pipe cleaners or felt boards or puzzles or screen time. I try to limit that.
Right.
And balance everything, right? But a couple hours of quiet time, and it's so funny. I've noticed, how long does it take you to sit down and watch one uninterrupted Netflix show? So many people talk about binge watching, and I'm like, binge watching for me is getting to watch like 40 minutes uninterrupted. And that's usually not even a full episode. So just to have that time is like really special. So we try to implement that, but then, just life gets in the way and schedules fall out of habit and everything. And so it had really taken a back burner, my self-care. And again, just giving myself that permission that, it's okay to have some time, and not spending that relaxing time stressing about everything else I could be doing, which again is like a whole other layer of it. But yeah, it just, it really struck me how detrimental it was to not take it so seriously, and to just think like, oh, it's there if I need it, but then when I needed it, I couldn't have it. And so it just, it was like, okay, well, later. Well, then all of a sudden there's screaming and, fighting, and I can't take that time to myself, And so just making sure to implement it, like, no matter what. The other difficult thing was, again, kind of relating it to medication, but like dosage, like, how much do I need per day? And because before it was like, okay, if I do a couple hours per week, then that's good, right? No, it was not. That was just still very
little,
minimal. Yeah. And so every day, and it doesn't need to be a couple hours every day, but even just 30 minutes every day where I, and my kids, they're to a point now where they understand. I feel like once they're kind of out of that napping phase, it's still really important to implement that quiet time, and mommy needs her space, and they're not allowed to necessarily do whatever they want, but they can sit down with a snack and a show, or whatever, and just allowing myself that time, even if I don't feel like I need it right then, right? Because there's still so much, so many instances where I'm like, I feel great right now, I can still wash the dishes, but just kind of like, no, this is your prescription. This is your, uninterrupted, just time to be with yourself. And, just realizing what, again, just kind of what medication, what dosage, all those things that you would do with a medication, but in a self-care instance. And my psychiatrist, she was even like, yes, I have prescribed self-care to people before. Like, she will make handwritten prescriptions of take 30 minutes to yourself every day.
Wow. Yes.
If that's what they need to know. Or even talked about prescriptions of spousal every night of the week, but my husband takes Friday and Saturday, and I get the weekend to have those nights. Bedtime for us is just stressful. So, we have our routine, but there's still just so much of, the kids just not wanting to go to bed. And so it's, whether they're getting up because they want to drink a water, or they want just one more story, or, there's so much of, again, just that being needed, where I just need to have some time where I'm not.
Yes.
And so realizing like, okay, I don't have to get to bed 7 nights a week. And, where I'm the primary one doing it. There are some times where my husband's just not home, but someone can do brushing teeth and someone else can be doing story time and, really working on that. And then a couple nights a week where I just don't have to be involved and I can be downstairs and he can be handling the stairs. And, again, just that realization of, treating it serious, taking it seriously, because it's not just well, I'll get to it when I get to it, because then you'll never get to it.
It's so true. Yeah. I love that whole analogy. So thank you for really describing that, because it's so true. I feel like more and more we're learning that as a society that, you need to take care of yourself. So it's so true. And it's hopefully becoming more accepted too, because it really should be.
Right.
Another thing I'm realizing the more people I talk to is I feel like I used to have it separated into a box. People that were fulfilled outside the home were just working moms, or people that were fulfilled in the home were stay-at-home moms. But it's so much more than that. Sometimes financial situations require one or the other, or like you were saying, you are a stay-at-home mom, but you're still fulfilled outside the home. So there's just so many things to it. So it's so interesting to talk about it. I love this conversation so far. So thank you. What is one of your favorite inspirational quotes?
Oh, this is such a hard.
I know. It's terrible to just pick one.
The one that keeps coming to mind, and I don't know if it's because it, kind of relates to the topic, but it's actually a scripture. And so it's Ecclesiastes chapter 3. The heading is "To everything there is a season." Right. So it's the one that's just talking about a time for this and a time for that and a time. Anyway, the verse 4, this has been like my favorite scripture almost my whole life. But it's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And I think it's just, again, kind of that realization of there's a balance. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows all the time, and that's okay. And just realizing like there is a time to cry and it's okay. That's one thing, I really want for my kids to understand is it's okay to feel these feelings, but also learning appropriate outlets for them. And so I let them see me cry, I let them see me angry, but I explain it, I'm like, I really am having a hard time right now. And, or I'm just not able to think right now, because a lot of it, so they're just asking me questions and I'll just take a breath and say, you know what, mommy needs a minute. I can't think of that right now. And, rather than, I don't ever want them to feel like they're not important or that I'm being dismissive of them, but that doesn't mean that I'm still catering to them constantly. We still have those boundaries. And so I just love this verse specifically, it talks about a time for a lot of things, but this one specifically, just the comparisons of weeping and laughing and mourning and dancing. And dancing is one of my favorite things. So it just is very fitting, but just realizing, there are times where it's not going to be okay, but that's okay. And it's not the end of the world. It's not, going to be destructive. It's very fitting. Last night, we kind of had a rough day. And when my husband came home, and I was just like, I'd already put the kids to bed and, gotten them ready and stuff, but he went up to say goodnight and stuff. And he came out and he was like, well, they seemed fine. So you didn't do anything permanent. And I was just, me being, I'm having a really hard time right now. And my 4-year-old, my sweet little 4-year-old, she's in preschool and her teacher's amazing. And I know this is a huge part of it, but she said, Mom, I understand how you feel. I know you just want us to listen, and I'm sorry we don't. And it was just like, oh,
yes.
And, so they recognize and they know, but it's mine are 6, 4, and 2, so they don't know how to regulate their emotions and kind of focus on specific tasks. And so a lot of times I try to ask them questions to get them going, like, what do we need to do to get ready for bed? What do we need to do to get ready for dinner? Instead of just telling them like, do this and this and this, right? But just that, helping them to see that it's not okay sometimes, but we can still handle it appropriately to get to those better times.
Yes.
And they will come.
Awesome. Well, I've so enjoyed talking to you. Thank you. I had other questions prepared, but it was like boom, boom, boom. You just answered them without me even asking. So it's so good. You're a good
Yes.
interviewee.
And it wasn't scripted.
Yes, perfect. I love it. Okay. Well, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah, bye. If you'd like to pitch your story for the podcast, or if you want more storytelling strategies, contact me at jenbanks16@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at jenbankscoaching.